In 1955, a horrific crash at Le Mans killed 83 spectators and one driver. That tragedy didn't just change motorsport forever. It also created the rarest and most valuable car ever made. This is the story of the Mercedes-Benz 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupé, a car so precious that its current value of $143 million makes a Bugatti look like a bargain basement deal. Only two of these magnificent machines were ever built, and for decades both remained locked away in Mercedes' vault, never sold, never traded, never even displayed. Until now. I'm standing next to one of them, and what you're about to see is automotive history in its purest form. The story begins with Rudolf Uhlenhaut, Mercedes' chief engineer and the man who would give this car his name. Uhlenhaut wasn't just any engineer. He was a virtuoso of speed, capable of lapping racing circuits as fast as professional drivers. When Mercedes dominated Formula One in 1954 and 55, it was largely thanks to his genius. But Uhlenhaut's masterpiece wasn't meant for Formula One. He had bigger ambitions to create the fastest road-legal car in history. He took the already legendary 300 SLR racing car and reimagined it for the street. The result was nothing short of revolutionary. Let's talk about what makes this car special, starting with its heart. Under that long, elegant hood sits a 3-liter straight-8 engine that produces 292 horsepower. Now, that might not sound impressive by today's standards, but in 1955, it was absolutely mind-blowing. This engine wasn't just powerful, it was a piece of engineering art, derived directly from Mercedes' dominant W196 Formula One car. The engine block was made from magnesium alloy. Yes, the same material that burns with an intense white flame. This exotic metal choice wasn't just showing off, it was part of an obsessive weight-saving strategy. The entire car weighs just 2,497 pounds. That's lighter than today's Mazda Miata, despite being a much larger car. The performance numbers are still impressive even by modern standards. 0 to 60 miles per hour takes just 7.7 seconds, and the top speed? An astonishing 180 miles per hour. Remember, this was achieved in 1955 when most family cars struggled to reach 70 miles per hour. The Uhlenhaut Coupé wasn't just fast for its time, it was in a completely different league. Step inside, and you're transported to a cockpit that perfectly blends luxury with racing heritage. The large steering wheel, wrapped in wood, sits in front of a cluster of gauges that look more appropriate for an aircraft than a car. The seats, covered in plaid fabric, remind you that this car came from an era when comfort and sport weren't mutually exclusive. But what really captures your attention are those doors. The iconic gull-wing design wasn't just for show. It was a brilliant solution to a structural problem. The car's tubular frame required high sills, which made conventional doors impractical. The gull-wing design turned a potential weakness into one of the most distinctive features in automotive history. The attention to detail is extraordinary. Look at these air vents on the front fenders. They're not just decorative. They help cool the massive drum brakes, which were state-of-the-art for their time. The side exit exhaust pipes aren't just for show either. They're positioned to optimize weight distribution and reduce back pressure. Every curve, every line of this car was shaped by both aesthetics and aerodynamics. The long hood wasn't just a styling exercise, it housed that magnificent straight-8 engine at a slight angle, allowing for a lower profile and better aerodynamics. Even the headlight covers were carefully designed to reduce drag. But here's what makes this particular car truly special. It's one of only two ever made. After the Le Mans disaster in 1955, Mercedes withdrew from motorsport entirely. The planned production run of the SLR Uhlenhaut Coupé was canceled, leaving just these two prototypes. One remained with Mercedes-Benz as a company car for Rudolf Uhlenhaut himself, while the other was kept as a backup. For decades, both cars were considered absolutely priceless and unsellable. They were the crown jewels of the Mercedes-Benz collection, representing not just the pinnacle of automotive engineering, but a pivotal moment in motorsport history. Then, in 2022, Mercedes made the unprecedented decision to sell one of them. The price? $143 million. That's not just a record for a car. It's more than double the previous record of $70 million for a 1963 Ferrari GTO. To put this in perspective, you could buy about 70 new Rolls-Royce Phantoms for the price of this single Mercedes. The buyer's identity remains confidential, but Mercedes didn't just sell to the highest bidder. The new owner had to agree to strict conditions. The car must be made available for public display at special events, and it can never be resold without giving Mercedes first right of refusal. Engine sound. Listen to that engine note. That's the sound of automotive history, a symphony of mechanical perfection that represents the absolute pinnacle of 1950s engineering. The straight-eight engine produces a unique sound that's somewhere between a race car and a luxury grand tourer, which is exactly what this car is. The design elements that made this car revolutionary in 1955 influenced automotive design for decades to come. Those gull-wing doors would later appear on the 300 SL and inspire countless other vehicles. The aerodynamic principles developed for this car would inform Mercedes' design language for generations. The front end, with its distinctive grille and Mercedes star, set a template that the company still follows today. The hood scoop, necessary to clear the canted engine, became a design element that would appear on performance cars for decades to come. Even the way the fenders flow into the doors would influence car design well into the 1960s and 70s. What's particularly fascinating about this car is how it bridges two worlds. It's both a thoroughbred race car and a luxury grand tourer. The interior features leather and plaid cloth, wood and aluminum, comfort and purpose. The seats are supportive enough for racing but comfortable enough for long-distance driving. The gauge cluster includes both a tachometer for racing and a clock for touring. The brake systems were incredibly advanced for their time, featuring inboard drums at the rear to reduce unsprung weight. The suspension geometry was essentially race car specification, but tuned to provide a balance between handling and comfort. Even the fuel tank was specially designed to maintain the car's weight distribution as fuel levels changed. There's a certain irony that this car, born from racing success and intended to showcase Mercedes-Benz's motorsport supremacy, would instead become a symbol of their withdrawal from racing. But perhaps that's what makes it so special. The 300 SLR Uhlenhaut Coupé represents both the pinnacle and the end of an era, the ultimate expression of what was possible when cost and practicality were no object, and engineering excellence was the only goal. This isn't just the world's most expensive car. It's a testament to human ingenuity, a piece of automotive art, and a reminder of a time when the impossible seemed within reach. The fact that it can still captivate us nearly 70 years after it was built tells you everything you need to know about its significance in automotive history.